The first step from one of the seed starting trays is take the top and put it on bottom. Then you take some warm water and just pour over the seedlings, over the tray. Let it sit. Wait for these little babies here to expand to about 1 inch tall as they absorb the water. Okay, now that the water soaked in, and each pot is about 1 inch and a quarter tall, fully soaked in, I dumped off a lot of the extra water. So now what you need, 3 things. One is your seeds. And yes, I have a lot of seeds, and this is just the beginning. These are all tomatoes. These are all peppers. Variety is the spice of life, right? I have a variety, and this is just the beginning. I have a lot of other seeds I want to plant later, but the tomatoes and the peppers take so long to get to a decent size to plant out into the garden that I'm trying to start them 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost date. Something else you're going to need, some markers. This way you can mark each row this way or this way so you don't forget what you have in there. Because the last thing you want to do is forget what plant you're about to put in. And as far as how to plant these specific type of seeds, now every seed is different, or every plant is different. Now for tomato plants, generally they recommend you plant them only about 1/4 inch deep, if that deep. Because the tomato seed, they're small. Hopefully you can see that, but that little baby's small. So you can put 1 or 2 in each of these little pods. And then get that down there. Yeah, then all you want to do, and I'm actually going to overplant because I would rather overplant and have some success than plant the exact amount of plants that I want to grow and maybe half of them not germinate for whatever reason. So then, since tomato plants don't need to be very deep, I'm just going to take a very light coating of peat moss to cover the seeds. Because right now, since they're just seeds, they really don't need dirt. Once they germinate, get bigger, you can put them in some dirt. But for right now, peat moss is just fine because it's very light. And tomatoes, just like some other plants, actually need a little bit of sunlight in order to germinate. Have you ever noticed when you have tomatoes from the previous year, maybe some tomatoes drop on the ground, and the following year you have what people call volunteer plants? Because the old tomatoes have gotten on the ground, the tomatoes rotted, but the tomato seeds are right on top of the ground there. And they end up forming new plants the following spring. So they don't really need a lot of cover. In fact, sometimes, like I said, with volunteer plants, it seems like they aren't covered at all, but they succeed. But when you're doing in these plants here, it is best to cover it up a little bit. So give yourself, depending on the plant, and each plant has information on the back that will tell you how long it should take to germinate them. Of course, with tomatoes and peppers, they're not going to germinate completely unless you follow one more step. This is the one more step. Grow lights and a heat mat. Like I said, I'm planting these 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost date. So I'm not going to leave these outside because they need heat to germinate. So I have my heat mat, which is long enough to cover the bottom of the tray here. And also, I'm not going to have enough sunlight no matter where I put this in my house. So I have the grow lights. You have 3 different settings. Your red, which I'm not exactly, let's see if I can get to the next. Okay, the red and blue, and your blue. If you buy some, just read the instructions. They'll tell you at which point you want to use the red or the combination light or just the blue light. And I put them fairly close to the plants to give them the best light that I can give them. These lights aren't hot, so they are going to burn the plants as they come up. And the heat mat is going to keep it warm enough. It's going to get the soil temperature or the peat moss temperature up to about 80-85 degrees, which is just right for germinating peppers and tomatoes. And not all plants need, or not all seeds need a heat mat. Some seeds do, some seeds don't. Some seeds, you just put them out in the garden, like pea seeds, green beans, watermelons, things like that. You can direct sow those, but it's much easier and you're going to get a better germination rate. So try your heat mat, your grow light, because if you're going to try to grow them indoors, this is what you need. And if you're worried about how much power it's using, I have it hooked up to my Blue Woody EB70, which I absolutely love. It's only taking 22 watts. So this and this can run for probably about 35 hours. And if I leave this plugged up to a solar panel, it's going to keep charging up. I won't use any electricity in my house to run my, basically my, what would I call this? Hey, my grow area. Because right now, I'm not going to put in the greenhouse because right now the temperatures are getting a little bit low. Now this is an excellent setup for germinating seeds. If you have any questions, comments, or if you're having any other really good ideas on how to get your seeds to germinate and how to plant seeds, post me a note in the comments. Anyway, let's get out there and get a little dirty. Oh, I'm still here. Well, that's great, because there's one more thing I need to tell you. When you're watering your seeds, don't water from the top. Just do like you did when you initially put water in the planter. Just pour water in here along the sides and let the water soak up from the bottom to give moisture to the seeds. Because if you're pouring water over the top, you might push the seed off to the side and it may not grow. So let's do that and get out there and get a little dirty.